An embassy goes beyond mere construction materials. It symbolizes a country abroad, proud, grand, and sophisticated. It should embody all the airs and graces of a nation presenting itself on the world stage. The U.S. Embassy in London isn't just America's overseas headquarters. It's a representation of a unique diplomatic alliance and houses one of the most prestigious ambassadorial roles globally. When it debuted in 2018, this embassy became not only the largest in the UK, but also one of the world's most technologically advanced buildings. It integrates a range of cutting-edge security features within a $1 billion fortress, inspired by the architecture of medieval European castles. However, constructing it was far from a diplomatic process. The United States relinquished what was considered the prime location of its embassy in London, a site steeped in history dating back nearly to the founding of the Republic. In exchange, they acquired this, a post-industrial wasteland that many taxi drivers would avoid. This marks the narrative of America's most cutting-edge and contentious embassy. The U.S. gave up what was once seen as London's most strategically located embassy, a site steeped in historical significance dating back to the founding of the nation. In return, they acquired a post-industrial wasteland that even many cab drivers would avoid. This is the story of America's most advanced and controversial embassy. All right, so you're a newly established nation looking to set up your presence in London. Here's what you need to know. First up, you'll need a headquarters. Technically, the building itself is called a chancery. Embassy refers to the staff and their activities, but for simplicity, we'll stick with calling it an embassy. Contrary to common belief, embassies aren't considered sovereign territory of the countries they represent. However, thanks to the Vienna Convention, they come with some significant perks. The host country cannot enter without permission, and while the embassy remains under local jurisdiction, it enjoys exemptions from most local laws. As a diplomat, you also benefit from full legal immunity during your stay. In the diplomatic realm, appearances matter greatly, so you'll want to follow the trend of most embassies by establishing your presence here in West London. Unlike many countries where owning your embassy is typical, in Britain, leases are the norm. More details on that coming up. However, don't fret because West London offers an abundance of townhouses in chic, prestigious neighborhoods where you can establish your embassy. When choosing your embassy location, Belgravia offers prestige, Kensington provides excellent company, and Mayfair tops them all. Before getting down to business, your ambassador must present credentials to the king, a process that until recently involved quite elaborate attire. In 1932, when Ivan Maysky, the new Soviet ambassador, arrived in London, he sought guidance from Moscow on whether to adhere to court protocol and wear knee breeches at Buckingham Palace. The Kremlin's response was memorable. If necessary, you will wear petticoats. In the heart of London's prestigious Mayfair, Grosvenor Square holds a prime spot often associated with the most expensive square on a London monopoly board. Here, the U.S. diplomatic mission has held a significant presence for centuries, securing one of the most advantageous real estate deals among embassies in London. Grosvenor Square, famously dubbed Little America, has been a cornerstone of U.S. diplomatic history since 1785, when John Adams established the first U.S. embassy in Britain at a house on the corner. Over the years, it has housed two former embassy buildings and served as the European headquarters for the U.S. Army and Navy during World War II. In 1960, the U.S. mission relocated to a purpose-built embassy on the west side of the square. Although this iconic building is currently undergoing conversion into a hotel, its exterior remains largely unchanged from its original inauguration. Constructed during a period when the U.S. emerged as a global superpower, this landmark building symbolized the nation's assertiveness on the international stage. Designed by Finnish-American architect Eero Saarinen, the structure blends classical and contemporary architectural elements. Clad in Portland stone, a material common in London, the building's proportions harmonize with its surroundings, despite its imposing size. As I mentioned earlier, Britain has its unique ways. The land in Grosvenor Square and much of West London is owned by the Duke of Westminster. When the U.S. sought to purchase land for their embassy in the 1950s, the Duke responded that he would only sell if America returned some land confiscated from him after the American War of Independence, a parcel now known as Miami. Unsurprisingly, the U.S. declined, but in a gesture of goodwill, the Duke offered a lease with an annual rent of just one peppercorn instead. But there's no need to sympathize with the Duke of Westminster. The current Duke, Hugh Grosvenor, boasts a fortune exceeding $9 billion, derived largely from the 500 acres his family has owned since 1677. Recent UBS data highlights that in 2023, billionaires accumulated more wealth through inheritance than through their own entrepreneurial efforts. In addition to Grosvenor Square, the Duke inherited an art collection from his father, valued at untold millions. While taxpayers in the UK are tightening their Christmas budgets to manage expenses, working investors can still acquire assets like these, which have consistently appreciated in value. Fortunately, we've made significant strides since 1677. Today, everyday investors have the opportunity to invest in blue-chip art directly from their smartphones, courtesy of our sponsors at Masterworks. With a portfolio boasting over 300 offerings from acclaimed artists such as Banksy, Picasso, and Jean-Michel Basquiat, Masterworks offers art that has historically outperformed conventional investments. Just consider the appreciation of Basquiat's work compared to traditional investment options. Now, let's revisit the U.S. Embassy. By the early 2000s, the building encountered significant challenges. Following 9/11, security became a major issue, not only for the embassy, but for surrounding areas as well. In 2007, a $15 million security enhancement project installed a perimeter of bollards around the site and restricted traffic on this side of the square. Back then, this area housed a wholesale market, a sorting office, a cement factory, and little else. The decision wasn't entirely unexpected. The embassy was intended to lead a broader $48 billion redevelopment of the vicinity. However, even today, despite an abundance of luxury housing and unique attractions like the outdoor sky pool and tropical Vauxhall, there remains a noticeable lack of amenities here. When President Trump criticized the embassy's relocation as being in an off location, he had a valid point. However, he was mistaken about most other aspects in that tweet. The search for a new site commenced in 2007, and a year later, the new location was secured. The funding for the development came from the sale of the old embassy and other London real estate. Approximately $800 million was allocated for the construction of the new embassy building. Construction on the chosen design commenced in 2013. The building is a massive cube situated atop an artificial hill, reminiscent of Mott and Bailey castles, symbolizing the sturdy foundation of American democracy. Additionally, the project is a significant endeavor to soften and conceal the extensive security features of this formidable fortress. The central building is surrounded by a spiraling park that blends American and British trees, a deliberate homage to England's urban park tradition. This design not only enhances aesthetics, but also ensures a necessary 100-foot clear perimeter around the building for blast protection and unobstructed views. As you explore the surroundings, you'll notice the absence of a traditional perimeter fence. Instead, security measures rely on clever tactics to deter intruders. On the northern boundary of the site, a hedge conceals a line of anti-vehicle bollards to shield against traffic from the busy road. Should anything breach this defense, it would traverse across a meadow and potentially into the 8-foot moat below. The building's 6-inch thick glass is adorned with stars to deter bird collisions. Additionally, pavilions stand guard at the entrance to ensure security. On the southern side, the building is isolated from the adjacent plaza by an ascending meadow. Concrete seating serves a dual purpose as a barrier for vehicles. Further up, in a nod to traditional English gardens, the meadow grasses conceal a trench, known as a ha-ha, originally designed to keep livestock out while preserving the view. Today, it fulfills a similar role, but for people instead of animals. Criticism greeted the building upon its unveiling, particularly regarding comparisons to a castle, which some perceived negatively. The Tower of London, the city's renowned castle, was constructed by an invading army to impose authority on the locals. Despite the well-disguised security features, many viewed the extensive precautions as excessive, even in an era where heightened security is commonplace. As an embassy, it must embody America's global stature both symbolically and functionally. It houses the new superpower, boldly taking on the role once held by old world powers, while also serving as a discreet fortress, downplaying its scale and influence. In the realm of embassies, it certainly challenges conventions. Perhaps in the intricate dance of diplomacy, that's precisely what counts the most. If you found this exploration of the U.S. Embassy in London fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Follow along for more insights into iconic buildings and their stories from around the world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.